This is a slightly different podcast this week. I've been looking over a case and the analysis I used, why it didn't work, the investigations I had to do, and the results that came from historical documents and a practitioner's use of a remedy from times gone by. I hope you enjoy. This actually is my own case. I woke up one morning and from my knee to my thigh on the back and the inner side, I had ringworm, big circular patches in the classic style. Along with that, I also had a very characteristic symptom which fitted the ringworm remedy I was thinking of if I perspired at all on that area where perspiration covered, the itching was unbearable, very much a huge aggravation. So it seemed pretty easy to me to pick the remedy sepia for my condition. I took sepia LM1 daily for 2 weeks. I had a look, nothing had changed. So I changed to 30C, 1 dose every 2 days, nothing. So then I changed to sepia 200C for 3 weeks, once a week, nothing. On re-repetizing with those symptoms, I came perhaps to the conclusion that natrum carb might be suited to this problem. So I took natrum carb for another 2 or 3 months and nothing changed at all. I then re-repetized and took sepia again with a dose of sulfur in between, and nothing changed. As to be expected at this point, I was a little bit frustrated, confused, and I didn't know what to do. So this is when the great search through the Materia Medica started. And as I went through the Materia Medica doing direct search in the P&W repertory, I came across a few remedies outside of the therapeutic pocketbook, but they didn't seem to fit the case at all. It was at this point I considered looking at the miasmatic infections to see if anything in my past had brought me to this state and situation. And I spent maybe 2 weeks looking through various journals, various different writers, until finally I took a look at Compton Burnett, James Compton Burnett, who was a great hero of mine, based in London, good homeopath, very fine clinical record of cure for very deep diseases from cancer outwards. And I looked at his little book entitled Ringworm, Its Constitutional Nature and Cure. Ringworm, Its Constitutional Nature and Cure. One of the joys for me in doing research is finding out how the homeopaths of the original group from Hahnemann till the beginning of the 20th century really, how they looked at things and evaluated them. There were 2 schools at that time. There was the British school and the American school. The American school was dominated by the Kantian thinking, and the British school took a more pragmatic approach, and one of the leaders of the British school was James Compton Burnett, a very well respected physician, huge clinic. He had a clinic in London and a clinic in Brighton. I've actually been walking in the footsteps of Compton Burnett and visited where he had his practice and where he used to dine for his luncheons. I digress. The reality is that Compton Burnett could take on cases and cure them, really difficult cancer cases, tubercular cases, and it took a little time, 2 or 3 years, but he never really failed much at all. Anyhow, in reading this book, Compton Burnett pointed out that the most successful remedy that he had used was sepia. There's another remedy also that came up later called tellurium, which has very similar symptoms and works very well with ringworm. But occasionally nothing would work on the patients before him, especially the children. The children seemed to be afflicted with it. And one of the things he noted was that if you had a group of children together, some would not have ringworm at all, and the others would be completely riddled with it. And in his evaluation, he noted that every single child that had ringworm had a tubercular background. On this basis, he had a remedy which we know as bacillinum made from tuberculosis, and he gave children afflicted with very bad ringworm increasingly high doses over a period of a year. Every single case got cured without fail. Compton Burnett felt that this was a perfect example of Hahnemann's experimental observations about miasms. He felt very much that this taint, this infection that went through the history of the family even, was the cause and the soil for which ringworm could grow and flourish. So having nothing to lose, I went down to our pharmacy and I had bacillinum. I was going to go just for tuberculinum, but I preferred to do what Compton Burnett did and follow his example precisely. So if there was a difference between tuberculinum and bacillinum, at least I could say I tried the right remedy. So I purchased bacillinum 200C and I came home, made it up, stirred it, and incidentally I had the 200C because in those days Compton Burnett had gone against the general trend of British homeopathy and gone high potency. I also ordered bacillinum in LMs, but at the time they did not have it in the LMs, so I thought I'll do it properly. So I had 200C, came home, prepared it, and I took a single dose. So what happened? In the first 2 days I became extremely lightheaded and dizzy, not feeling so good, and then I had a nosebleed. Epistactics everywhere. It was a mess. I also blew out of my right nostril a huge long blob of, I don't know quite what it was, but this photograph will show you. And I had a nosebleed for the next, about every 4 days, just for no reason. My nose would just, I think it was my right nostril, would just bleed. I noticed that my airways became much clearer. I developed a small cough and that disappeared. My breathing, as stated, became better. My nose, which was always prone to one nostril or the other blocking up, suddenly was clear in both sides. Regarding my skin, nothing happened for 3 weeks. And then slowly I saw my eruptions changing color to a pale color and slowly disappearing. I repeated the bacillinum on the 4th week and again nosebleeds. So there's something in the bacillinum and my susceptibility, or indeed being a host to tuberculosis through the family, that caused this problem to come. I don't think it was a remedy action in terms of approving. I think it was something to do with how my respiration worked. And then over the next few weeks I repeated it once more, and now I'm left with only maybe 5% of the ringworm. I should really continue, go to a 1M and a 10M and finish the treatment. I've just been too busy to do it. But did it work? Yes. What I found covered with it, that I needed something more than the sepia. Maybe other factors in my health required the deeper miasmatic treatment. I'm very happy with the result, don't get me wrong. And I was just thinking today what symptoms are left. Well, one outstanding symptom that causes me concern because of the nature of the problem is that if I perspire on my back, the itching is almost intolerable. This has returned, I think, to the major sepia symptom, and I'm just deciding whether to take sepia, hope it will work now that the tuberculinum has not the tuberculinum, the basilinum has had chance to do its job, and see what to do. It's always interesting when these aspects of homeopathy arise. Now, you won't find tuberculinum or basilinum in the therapeutic pocketbook. It had not been proved then. I would say that those who use the P&W pocketbook, we use it for maybe 95% of cases, but 5% are these type of cases outside of the scope of the pocketbook from remedies that we know. It's all about the law of similars. And if you know a remedy very well and it's been proved well and you know the symptoms, don't be afraid to use it. Gelsemium is one that I use, and I would like to add maybe another 50 remedies to the pocketbook, only I don't think I could do justice to the system of grading that Berningshausen put into it. I know how to do it, but I'm not sure I could be as accurate as him. So we have decided for the moment not to add anything. However, I would suggest for all practitioners to read the no-salts and see just how, when the case before us is not resolving, how we can use these no-salts based on the law of similars and symptoms, and really not be afraid to use these remedies if we feel that they cover the case. They do seem to remove blocks from time to time. This is one of the reasons the IHM has concentrated on research, just to find methodologies and remedies that can help when all seems lost. I'm pretty sure Hahnemann would have used basilinum and tuberculinum had he had it at the time, because he was leaning towards the miasmatic theory of infection, and this most certainly is one that removes blocks and moves the patient towards health. Well, thank you for listening, and we'll meet up again next time.